New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Welcome to Ministers Talking a weekly program where Rev Briz and Rev Z and their guests chat about current affairs, world events, spiritual principles, and any old they want to talk about. Based on the New Thought philosophy and ancient wisdoms, Ministers Talking shares a visionary perspective of the evolving spiral called spiritual living. Join us each week as we explore the emerging paradigm of life on planet Earth and beyond.
And good morning, dear ones. Dr. Robert with you over here.
Rev Z right here.
And this is Ministers Talking Shit for Friday morning. It is the 24th of May. Where did the month of May go, Elzia? It's just gone.
It's gone. It sounds like a Temptation songs. I got the month calling my girl.
Right on. Seems like we may be experiencing a little lag between myself and Reverend Elzia's computer this morning. Please accept our apologies for that. So, but hey, we're here. It's Friday. It's Memorial Day weekend. And before we get into all of it, we want to send out a big, huge prayer and a big, huge thought and let everybody know across the Midwest and in everywhere that's being affected by tornadoes this season that we love you, we support you, and we're lifting you up in prayer. It seems another really big one hit in Iowa yesterday. It seems like there's been a lot of really violent storms across the Midwest this spring already. And yesterday in Iowa, a twister was on the ground for almost an hour. Luckily, only 4 people were killed in the storm and about a dozen injured. So, at least there's not a lot out there in the Midwest, a lot of cornfields to eat up and all that. But big thoughts and prayers for the folks of Iowa and across the Midwest. More storms forecasted for the weekend, actually.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's heartbreaking to see. I mean, there's this one time, I think it was Greensville, in Iowa, like 200 houses were demolished, right? The town only had 2,000 people, so there were 10% of the houses and buildings demolished. They don't know how many, I'm sure, yet have been damaged or are no longer habitable because they're structurally unsound. And so now that whole town basically has to rebuild, right? And, there's more to come. And, given that today is the 24th, 7 more days starts hurricane season. And they're predicting anywhere from 8 to 13 major hurricanes this year. I think last year they only had like 7, right? And so this whole change in water temperatures and weather patterns, and I'm not even going to give it a name. People, we can play tiddlywinks with what's going on, but it for sure is going on. And so we really have to, I think, begin to take it seriously, this whole idea of earth conservation and being diligent and conscious about the house, the real house called Earth that we live in and live on. Because they said that they've never seen this kind of tornado action for a very long time. So
Yeah. I guess you can't. It's hard to say that our climate isn't changing.
yeah, well, if you got your head in the sand, you can, or if you just, if you're sticking to some fundamentalist ideology that says this can't happen, or it doesn't happen, or whatever people say, then yeah, you can you know you walk around oblivious. But it is definitely, um, they got like the average season. They only had like for hurricanes was like 14 to 15. They're saying we may get 25 storms. That's the named ones and unnamed ones. And previously only had like 14 to 15. So we got like a very big increase, almost double. Um, which some people are still recovering from last year's stuff.
And the year before.
Yeah. And already I saw something yesterday where FEMA made the statement that they were already low on funds, and now they're saying that at this rate, because I think the city in Iowa has already asked for like $2 billion, and I don't know what FEMA's budget is, but they're saying by August they anticipate they'll be broke at this rate.
FEMA will be out of money too.
Yeah.
Yep.
And when August hit, you still got 2 more months of hurricane season.
So exactly. So I think we're back to the days of duck and cover. Now, again, in the Midwest, everybody's pretty smart. They have storm shelters and they have hurricane shelters and all the things that are necessary to keep people safe.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why we only see 4 deaths in a storm that rips up the country for over an hour. But hurricane territory, not so much. You just got to get out. You got to flee and get out of town. So we're in a point where it's kind of duck and cover from the latest storm. Grateful we live in Colorado.
Yeah.
Let's say, speaking of living in Colorado, good morning, Linda. Grateful to see you here. Glad you're with us all the way from the mountains. It's good to have you with us. Brother Wayne in the house, of course. Good to see you, brother. Glad you're with us.
And of course, when you say Colorado, my mind, I always think about my homeboy over there in Boulder, Brother Deion Sanders, with the Colorado Buffaloes. And it just stirs up that story of the new findings or the new declaration that the NCAA is looking to try. I don't know what they're trying to do. I'll say they're trying to equal the playing field, which they won't be able to do for players in the in the NCAA football, the Power 5 conference.
Right.
To give these kids from 2016 to, I'm not sure, maybe 2021, 22, some pay.
Up until the point where they instituted the ruling that allowed for kids to make endorsement money. So,
right.
Folks, if you haven't followed along on this story, the NCAA and 5 of the major sports divisions have agreed to a $2.8 billion settlement. Now, this has not been approved yet, so it's not a done deal. And in the article I read, I forget who gets to approve it, but somebody has to approve it. But the idea is to go back to 2016 and give the kids, the athletes, I don't want to say kids, most of them are adult athletes at that point, give the athletes that did not have an opportunity to make money from their image endorsements to basically back pay. Now, all in all, it's a 10-year plan. It does include provisions to ensure that future generations of kids are paid adequately, and there's a lot of stipulations and a lot of things that still have to happen before any of these athletes are going to see money. But it is looking like some of these athletes are going to see some sort of payment for their past efforts in enriching these schools through their athletic programs. I think it's not the same, but it feels a little bit like some reparations for the college athlete. Now we need to get reparations for a whole race of people, but that's another story we can discuss at another time.
Yes.
But at least some of these kids are getting are going to get something. I trust it's something that's meaningful.
Yeah, I am as well, because I'm overjoyed, and I am overjoyed, and I'm hoping, and I'll be happy when they figure it out, and I hope it's something meaningful, because my grandson, who was a star cornerback at University of Kansas Jayhawks during that period, he got nothing, and then he got shafted during the draft because of COVID. He couldn't get out and show his wares, right? And so a lot of those kids in that time period from 2016 to 2020, they got a real raw deal in terms of the time and effort and everything that they put in to try to chase that dream, So for him and others like him, some of his teammates that I know that didn't make it to the NFL and that were very good players and should have had a really good opportunity, hopefully they get something to compensate. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on that story and let you know.
Yes, absolutely. I would love to see this happen. We read about these billion-dollar settlements for all kinds of reasons and all kinds of things, and at the rate with which money moves around and how it moves around anymore, I think it's only appropriate that we start getting some of these kids some back pay. It's not the perfect term for it, but it's there. So cool.
Yeah, I mean, because it is it's things that we need to do to right the ship. So let's just right the ship and get out the storm.
Right on. So, but we already talked about storms. Let's talk about the political. I want to get into the political storm that is brewing. I think we're on the verge of seeing. I think we need to reboot the Supreme Court. I think we need a full reboot of this. I think throw them all out. Let's put together some sort of bipartisan commission with Congress. Well, if we get Congress involved, it'll never get finished. But some sort of bipartisan or committee that can name a whole new set of jurors, of Supreme Court justices, because it feels like the white supremacists on the court, and as you might have said earlier, the black white supremacists on the court are just throwing it in our face anytime we turn around. And what I'm talking about here, folks, is Justice Alito, Samuel Alito, is embroiled in what they're now calling a flag controversy. Turns out back in 2021, for 11 days following the insurrection, his house, his family, they flew an American flag upside down. That's a traditional call of distress. When we reported on this here on this program last week or the week before, he ends up blaming it all on his wife and saying it's because his wife and his neighbor were having an argument over some yard signs. I'm not sure who thinks it's appropriate to fly a flag upside down because of a neighborly argument. But so he throws it off on his wife. Well, now pictures have surfaced of his beach house flying what's known as the Appeal to Heaven flag. And the Appeal to Heaven flag is a Revolutionary War era flag, but it has been adopted by supremacists over the last handful of years, and many people were displaying that flag during the insurrection in 2021. Well, it turns out last summer there's pictures of his family flying this flag at their beach house, both in July and September of last summer. So that seems to me to have nothing to do with a protest against stopping the steal of the 2020 election, or however they want to frame it. I haven't heard whether he blames his wife for this one or not, but it would seem pretty obvious to me that Justice Alito is flying the flag of white supremacy right in our faces on beautiful summer days on the beach, and why should the man not be removed from the court? Is at that point.
You know, the sad thing is that, you know, we have these conversations now about the state of democracy and will it survive? And I think Lady Liberty standing out there in the harbor, you know, has put on a brand new blindfold and can't see absolutely anything, because there's, you know, especially in this media thing, you never know what a person's really thinking. I mean, all this stuff is for show now. It appears anyway. We know there's still some good politicians and civil servants and people who really care about the state of the union, if you will. But, you know, we talked about it the other day. When we look at this thing with Marjorie Taylor Greene, she just goes, and not picking on her, but she makes it easy with all of the antics that she sets up and you know, disruptions, trying to get rid of Johnson, the speaker, and all these things she's been doing. It's like wasting time. You know, they get in the chambers and they spend a couple of hours, 3 hours to take care of business, and nothing gets done.
Yeah. No, it's true. It seems like we're in a place of the demonstration of there's an old adage that absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yes.
And it feels like we have reached that level in all of federal politics. Not in federal, and like you said, not in the federal employees, not in the federal workforce, but in federal politics, it has become, hey, welcome to the club. Here's your keys to the grifter closet. Go figure out how to round yourself up some money and then how to keep it for yourself.
Yes.
And how to screw.
It's like a country club.
It is. So, and folks, you know, we've been sitting here, we've had one of our resident experts in all of this slip into our studio and is sitting in the green room. If you don't know Reverend Michael Mangus, he runs a program here on Friday evenings called the Fireside Chat, where he talks about a lot of interesting stories in the news every Friday evening. Come back and check that out at 6 o'clock. And Reverend Michael, welcome to the show.
Well, good morning. Yes, I was, you know, I work all hours of the day for the New Thought Media Network. I burn the midnight oil. I get up early in the morning. We'll talk. Let me talk about what you guys were just talking about the flying the flag upside down. First of all, is that there's certain things that you don't do. You know, I'm an amateur radio operator. You don't call out Mayday, Mayday, Mayday unless you really mean it. All right.
Yes.
And so that's what's going on here, is that individuals are, Justice Alito, they need to follow some type of code of ethics there. and again that they're not. So, but tonight on the New Thought Media Network on the Friday Evening Fireside Chat, I just got done with a wonderful interview with Bishop D.E. Pauck from Atlanta. He runs one of the more progressive, inclusive churches in the whole world called Spirit and True Sanctuary. And we're talking about a lot of different things tonight. I think that you'll be very entertained and also informed with the message. So it's 1 hour without me doing the news. No news. No news tonight. It's just D.E. Pauck for 1 hour on the Friday Evening Fireside Chat, 8 Eastern, 6 Mountain on your New Thought Media Network.
That should be a great interview. I'll tune into that one. All right.
Yes.
Now, our friend Linda has a prescription here. Let's take a look at this. Increase the number of justices to 12 to match the number of federal districts.
Yes.
Now we do run into we could end up in a tie if we do that, but okay. Have term limits and enforce a code of ethics with consequences. I think that's one of the important pieces, and you just mentioned it, Michael. The Supreme Court has no ethics, and that's not a joke.
No, they don't.
No ethical document. There is no ethical agreement. As ministers, each one of us, we sign agreements. We sign an agreement to an ethics, an agreed ethical document for that says this is the things we will do, and more importantly, these are the things we're not going to do and we won't do. And it feels like the Supreme Court has been corrupted absolutely. And therefore, I'm back to, we need to reboot, pull them all.
Yeah.
The ones we like, the ones we don't like, the ones that have done bad stuff, and the ones that we don't know whether they've done bad stuff or not. And let's start over.
We're in a situation now where we have to rebuild the ship in the middle of the ocean, which is a tricky thing. And that's where we are right now. We're in the middle of the ocean of this stuff, and we need to rebuild. So, we can't totally abandon ship, right? We have to figure out what are the good parts, or what are the parts that's working. Make sure we get the ancillary, like the voting stuff and the equal pay stuff, right? I mean, some basic kinds of things to begin to level the ship a little bit. Right now, we're leaning and all of this. And once we get it level where water is not coming in as fast, because water's still going to be coming in, then we start looking at, okay, let's get the engine room. Let's make sure the sails are working. Let's make sure the steering is working in our society, so that we can begin to really, everybody start rowing, if you will. I'm using a lot of metaphors on the ship here. We're sailing and motoring and rowing, but that's what we got sometimes. But we're rowing in the same direction.
Great metaphor there, Reverend Z. I like what Linda said, though. Increase the number of justices. And again, if you want to, Congress can vote in increase the number of justices. All right.
Mm-hmm.
The problem right now is that they won't. So with the current majorities that we have, but that could happen. And again, why not increase it to 13? So that's another thing that they could do. But you're right. And that the whole idea of ethics, you were talking about that, Dr. Robert, I just remember back in ministerial training, we took 40 hours of ethics training, 40 hours. And, and we, again, signed off on a code of ethics that this is how that we are to behave as ministers of this wonderful movement. So yes, there to have, again, that we all, that we really do live up to a Judeo-Christian ethic in our society, and to start actually doing that and calling for that in our in all of our branches of government.
I don't know if you guys saw the little spat that happened on the House floor, not on the House floor, but in a committee room this past week between Marjorie Taylor Greene and AOC and a new, her name just slipped out of my head. A new.
Oh yes, he's from Texas.
Yeah, but even there, it seems we have lost the decorum. And I saw a follow-up interview with AOC where she blamed all of it on the Republicans for rewriting the rules of decorum in the House. And where in the past you could make a call to strike someone's words or to question someone's language. Even at one point, she was saying in the past, you could get censored for not saying the gentlewoman from or the gentleman from. You weren't allowed to address people by their names. And again, AOC is saying it's all the conservative side that has watered down the rules of decorum to the point where none of that matters anymore. You can call somebody a bleach blonde, bad built body bitch or something or whatever she
Butch
said.
body.
Butch body. Butch body, yeah. Like, I get it. We all have different ways of insulting people. And I'm not here to call anybody out for how they insult people, but I do want to call her out for getting personal in a House committee meeting. And I don't like Marjorie Taylor Greene, but I don't think it's appropriate to call her a bitch or whatever or anything in a committee meeting.
Well, but by the same term, it's not fair for Greene to call her ignorant, right?
Yes,
because
right.
She said she's unintelligent, or she was that's what started it. She asked a question about something that was on the floor, and then Marjorie Taylor Greene said, "Oh, well, you can't read it because of your fake eyelashes, and you I'm not sure if it was ignorant or not smart or unintelligent or something like that." That was what started it. So she had already insulted her personal and intellectually, and then she came back at her and saying she was a bleach blonde, butch body, whatever. And so then it was on. And so, here is the challenge that I have with a lot of the stuff that goes on in these halls. Because of the privilege, certain people are allowed to say and do and behave anyway at any time. And other people, if they make one infraction after the other person has made several, they jump on the one person, right? And that's where the problem comes. There's the equity in this is lacking. If you're going to slam one, you got to slam them all. If this is the rule, if we want to, and it can get technical, right? Because this is how people get shot at cop stop. Getting stopped for a traffic ticket as well. But we have to find a middle road to travel. And Marjorie Greene, we know, stirs the pot. Frequently.
Don't get me wrong. I'm no way defending Marjorie Taylor Greene in this. I want to see us not lower ourselves to where Marjorie has brought the whole thing down and brought the whole thing to a lower level of decorum. And I just don't want to see Democrats lower themselves to that by getting into the fray of calling names and making it and taking personal shots. And it's for us to do. That's for the pundits to do, right? It's for us to say, "Hey, dumb blonde bitch, whatever." Well, but it's not for our elected officials.
Name calling in and of it. Have we gone back to grade school, high school with that kind of stuff? Why can't again? Talk about nonviolent communication. It's that. This did not happen even as contentious as the Democrats and Republicans were even years ago, is that there was a sense of decorum there. where again, that people could have adult conversations without having to call each other names. And that, again, that the reason that we have a Marjorie Taylor Greene there is because that, again, other people, other Democrats and Republicans allow that kind of behavior to go on. So, so let's, censure the woman, do something to say, listen, this behavior is not allowed within these walls, and that let's get to work and do the work of the people here. So,
and like you said, in elementary school, we have to go back to what all elementary teachers tell their kids: use your words, not slurs, not jokes, not name calling, but use your words. You are supposed to be part of the intellectual body of the country to solve issues, to resolve problems. And we're back in kindergarten. Now, I know she's up for re-election this year, I think. I don't know who's running against her. I have to go figure that out. She's definitely up for re-election. So somebody's going to be running against her, I think. I'm not sure who, though.
Right. I like what Linda says. She says name calling and the use of foul language is not only childish, but also demonstrates a lack of critical thinking. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Linda.
As we've said this, it kind of jumped into me. Marjorie does appear she's got a little bit of arrested development going on and just stopped at high school. Like nothing has, like, you're right, Michael. It all appears to be very high school, and she uses the same tactics a bitter young woman in high school would use.
Right.
And it's, I know there's a higher way. I know there's a greater vision for this country. We've been articulating it for 200 and some odd years now. I know there is, and I'll lay it all right at the feet of the MAGA movement. Like, we got to get the MAGA movement out of the government, period. But I am not. I am not suggesting we have an insurrection.
No. What we need is what happened at the beginning of this country when they set up and formed all these documents: is inquiry, question, and debate, which is the composition of critical thinking. Right? I see something, I make an inquiry. I get a response. I question it if it's not clear. And if it comes back and it's not totally sound, then we have a debate about the merits of the thing, right? That doesn't happen anymore. And we need to be able to sit down and have honest debates about real issues, i.e. weather, when we just talked about all of, when we sit down and have these conferences on weather and things like that, people don't even take it serious anymore. It's a vacation. It's a way to go to some conference, hang out. I mean, recently, I think probably in I could say every state probably, but I know it's happening in a lot of states. We're seeing civil service, police, firemen, legislators who are going on vacation and taking their spouses and partners. It's okay if they use their own money, but they're using government money or citizens' money to take their family members on vacation when they're supposed to be doing work.
And if you're Tiffany Henyard in Dalton, Illinois, you can't even remember which government to charge your vacation to. That's the story of the week in Dalton. A forensic accountant came out and it's like, she's writing checks on from one government to pay for extravagances in the other government. She can't keep straight who she's ripping off.
I think, right.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I think this all gets back to, though, even with, talking about ministerial ethics, is that we as ministers are held to a higher standard by others. And I think that also needs to happen within not only the Supreme Court, but also is that is again a higher. People need to be held to a higher standard, and if they violate that standard, then there's consequences. There's, the Marjorie Taylor Greene behavior. If she did that in some high schools, there would be consequences for that kind of behavior, either by the school or hopefully by her parents. So to have accountability, I think that's something that's needed, rather than, again, all this craziness that's going on. Again, name calling does not solve anything. All it does, again, it's just all these bullying tactics do not work and get the work of the people done. So,
right. Well,
Exactly.
and here's a call to action, which I think should happen. I know it's happening, but we should increase it to get as many people registered. I don't care how you vote, but get as many people registered so that they have input in this process, so that they can begin. Because I think automatically, once you register to vote, if you're not concerned or inquiring about what the issues are, once you vote, you feel like, oh, okay, now I gotta know what I'm doing, at least some of the people. And so now you begin to look at the issues and look at the candidates and begin to think critically, as Linda said, about how we move beyond some of these impediments and stumbling blocks that we have facing our society.
And Linda gets the A for the day. She says, we are reminded of our responsibility to vote. Colorado has a representative running for re-election who has also demonstrated foul and childish behavior in public and on the floor. Linda, you get our Star Student of the Day award.
Yes.
Hey, before we go, and I know we're about running out of time here, but before we go, I want to make mention of something else. Last night, President Joe Biden hosted a state dinner in Kenya, it's for Kenya. Sorry, I got that backwards. Hosted the president of Kenya for a state dinner. It's the first time since 2003 Kenya has visited the White House anywhere, and no African nation has had a state dinner since George Bush honored Ghana's president in 2008. So it's been 24 years since a leader from Africa has visited the United States for a state function, for a state dinner, for an honoring, for a recognition. Now, Kenya is being called one of our greatest non-ally allies. Not sure how that works, but in today's political speech, it seems to make sense. So, but 15 years between visits from the largest continent, a leader of one of the largest continent on the planet. I don't get it.
Yeah. 54 countries in Africa, 54, which means that there are probably as many countries in Africa than there are in all of Europe. And those leaders have it looks like they have a key to the front door to get into the White House for state dinners and meetings and powwows and all that. And so here again, in my mind, might basically be my mind and eyes, there's a disparity that whether it's implicit or explicit or any kind of explicit, right? This should not be taking place. We are still over there, just like all of the other places, taking resources. I mean, we spoke not too long ago about all of the electronic waste we're dumping over in Africa, and we got people who are marginally living, taking copper out of radios and chips out of old computers. But you can't talk to leaders to try to figure out a better way to do things. There's a disparity that is global. And dare I say, a race and ethnicity fits in there somewhere, it seems. And we need to begin to look at a world that works for all, where everybody has value, where everybody can contribute. And we're not doing that right now. The good old folk, whoever they are, man or woman, are still in the top of the country club, and they're not letting anybody else in easily. Let's just put it that way.
Yes. And my apologies, I forgot to mention the president's name is William Ruto. Kenyan's president, William Ruto, is his name. But no, I mean, I see it too. See, if you're from predominantly white Europe, yeah, come on, let's go to dinner. If you're from predominantly black Africa, we'll get back to you.
That's what it seems like.
All right,
I don't know for sure.
He's busy that year. We'll get back to you. Well, what surprises me in all of this is that somehow Obama never invited any. Like, Obama never had a state dinner either. So I find it kind of funny. They say that Obama showed up, said hi, and slipped out early.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't actually invited to the dinner. He wasn't actually on the original guest list. He just kind of slipped in through the presidential back door to a reception in the Blue Room. So Obama crashed Biden's party. You know, it's okay, Joe, I got you. But let's be real. Obama didn't do what was necessary during his term to bring Africa into the conversation. And
you're right. And I think that's one of the criticisms that a lot of African Americans have about President Obama. They don't feel he did enough for African Americans while he had the opportunity. And I get it, because oftentimes when we find ourselves, we being blacks, find ourselves in these kinds of positions, we often err on not being too whatever, so that we don't get ostracized. Now, he got ostracized anyway, so he could have done it, right? But there are things that African Americans, blacks, however, I don't, how the code switching, if you will, and the ability, there's no way I can go and hide. If I'm from Yugoslavia or the old Yugoslavia or Ukraine, or I could be from any other place like that and come to this country and walk in. If my diction is good, you have no idea where I'm from, and I can blend right in. There's no way in God's green earth that I'm gonna blend in unless it's a blend in a room of black folk. And so it's a different kind of maneuvering that takes place. It's a different kind of awareness that has to take place as a person of color, because there is nowhere to hide, and you do stick out. And so you err on the side of not giving up that opportunity to do something, as opposed to getting kicked out and do nothing. And it's not an excuse, it's just a fact. And so we have to begin to figure out how to get around those things.
Yep, exactly. Well, folks,
but it's Memorial Day.
It's
almost.
Almost. Exactly. So
do I get Monday off, boss?
No.
I knew that.
All right, folks, we need to get out of here. We have completely run out of time, but thank you for being with us. Please do stay tuned in the New Thought Media Network. We've got a great lineup for you here today. Coming up in just a little bit, Sekou writes with Get Rich 101. Morning prayers are at 8:15. I'll be back for those. 8:30 in the morning sip with Rev Melissa. 9 o'clock Spanish language programming with Emma Moreno. 9:30 Spanish language prayers throughout the day. Just One You, the Joy Show, is at 1 p.m. Mountain Time. I'll be back with the good news at 5. And as Reverend Michael said, a great interview with Deepak at 6 o'clock Mountain Time. I could go watch that now, but I'm going to wait until later, and I'm really looking forward to seeing that interview.
Yeah.
Now let me at least put it up on. No, you can go in the library. Well, anyhow, you can go in the back room and take a look at. But again, I encourage everyone to take a watch tonight and also post it on your social media. Deepak's just absolutely phenomenal. Again, picking up the mantle of Carlton Pearson and moving on with it. So
beautiful. Yep. All right, folks, we're out of here for now. Until next time, we wish you peace and richest blessings. Bye now.
And thanks for listening to this week's episode of Ministers Talking. We'll be back again next week with more commentary on current affairs, world events, and any other our ministers want to talk about. And if you found value here, please share our with your friends. Until next time, peace and blessings.